Hello and welcome to the Winner's Circle. I'm your host, Dr. Sean Hubbard. As you're aware, on the Winner's Circle, we like to take on the challenges of the day. Some of those are personal challenges, while others are societal challenges that affect our community. We like to talk about some of the challenges, but we're not just going to talk about challenges, we'll talk about solutions. Ultimately, that's what we're about. We want to figure out ways that we can win and find creative ways, creative approaches that we can find well-being. Here to help us do all that today is a guest that I know very well and who knows me very well. He's my dad, but many people know of him as Coach Rudy Hubbard. Coach Hubbard, Daddy, welcome to the Winner's Circle. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I really wanted to have you on the show today because down through the years practicing as a physician, I have found that one of my main challenges, especially since I want to have my patients, all of them, experience victorious health, is that many times people don't necessarily feel like winners. And so while I'm trying to coach them and convince them that they're winners, that's a challenge. And so that's why I wanted to have you on today, because you've spent so much of your life and still to this day figuring out how to win and teaching others how they can win. As a way of introducing you to everybody in the Winner's Circle, I wonder if you could tell us about these images that we're looking at on the screen here. I think one of them is of you in a stadium at Ohio State, it looks like.
Okay. Yeah, on that picture, they were recognizing some of the players from a past team. I think it may have been a championship team that they were recognizing at the same time. They were playing Florida A&M, and so Florida A&M had brought me up there with them, and it was halftime. And so they recognized that whole team, but one by one. And so with my hand up in the air, that was my turn. As I was being recognized, they had me on the big jumbo screen. I didn't know it, but they had a big article from a newspaper article that had run that Friday before the game. And most of the people had seen that article or read that article, and then so they put that picture of the article on the jumbo screen, and so the stadium kind of erupted. Most of the people knew me from my past experience at Ohio State.
Wow, cool, excellent. That's a nice photo. And there's another one I've seen several times throughout my life, and looks like you were at Florida A&M at this time, and it looks like there was a nice occasion, obviously a win. You're on the shoulders of several players. What's happening there?
Okay, that picture was in the championship game 1978. We had played the University of Massachusetts at Wichita Falls, Texas. And that was for the first 1AA championship that was ever played. And so we happened to win the game. We were glad to win the game. It was really, really crazy conditions. It was really, really cold and windy, but we were glad to get out of there with the win. And of course, that's something that'll never be taken away from us. It's in the history books as the first 1AA national championship.
Wow, excellent, excellent. A first, excellent. So it sounds like winning at several levels there. You had been at Ohio State and now you had gone down south to another conference and coaching. How about there's another photo of you, it looks like you're wearing a tuxedo. What's going on there?
Oh, okay, that was at the Civic Center here in Tallahassee, and I was being recognized at that point. I had retired from coaching, and the guys who were recognizing me was, first of all, the president CEO of the Urban League and the Florida A&M Alumni Association together decided that they would recognize me as one of their major fundraising events. And so that's what we're looking at when you see that picture. It's a big event and a big fundraiser for the university and some of the programs.
Wow, excellent, excellent. And it must feel a little bit uncomfortable continuing to talk about so much victory, but one more photo. It looks like you have a trophy in your hand there. And There's another photo there. I wonder if you could explain that last photo. It looks like you and Pam.
Oh, okay, yeah. That picture was we had decided to go into business, and we were with Primerica Financial Services, and basically what we did, we were showing people how to be properly insured for their life, and also to eliminate debt. And they had a program that I ended up being in the top 10 in the entire nation, along with Canada and England. Uh, anyway, I was in the top 10. And
Wow.
so, in terms of showing people how to become debt free, so I really enjoyed doing that, and I enjoyed winning and and being in the top 10.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So that's a lot of victory you've created there, and it sounds like on multiple levels and multiple places, and playing different games also. And when people can change up like that, it suggests that it's not so much the game, but it's the person who's doing the winning. And so I guess the big question in a way is when did you first realize that you were a winner, or was there a time that you could remember that you developed that kind of an identity?
You know, that's a great question. I think probably my first indication was when I was just a young person. I was probably 6, 7, or 8 years old, and I can remember my grandmother from my father's side. Uh, she wanted me to become a preacher. She was very religious, and at the time, it seemed that most of the people, our biggest opportunities to be successful in life, uh, those people ended up being the preachers, and I think that's where she got that from. I don't know, but she had pegged me, and she used to say it all the time that there was something special about me, and I was open enough and bold enough to believe it, and I think that's where it really started. She used to say that, and I had my aunt, who was her daughter. My aunt was a person who had no children, and so she felt like I was going to be like her child. My brother, my parents only had two of us. My brother, of course, 7 years older than I was, and
Sure.
so when I was born, my aunt they thought I was going to be a girl, so I was going to be named after my aunt. Her name was Ruby Edwards, and so once I was born, the closest thing I guess they could come to that was Rudy. And so, but she treated me like I was her child the whole time.
Sure.
She was very, very protective of me, and she made me feel very special from day one. And
Excellent.
so she thought I was going to go on and do big things, and she used to verbalize that as well.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay, so it sounds like if we have somebody that really cares for us, and somebody that identifies with us and with whom we identify, and if they see that spirit in us, and if they're able to convince us, then we can internalize some of that spirit of winning for ourselves and move on, if I understand what you're saying correctly.
Oh, you understand it perfectly well. I think it had a lot to do with it. Looking back on it, uh, I did. I internalized it when they would say it, and I didn't want to. I didn't like to let them down in anything, and because I knew they expected big things, they had said it, and
Wow.
uh, so a lot of times I would go so far as to say that it drove me.
Right. Wow. Yeah. So, I'm thinking that that's a special role that teachers have, as well as physicians and coaches in various fields, supervisors and bosses in so many fields, that there is an opportunity that they can coach other people and help them see that they're winners on the inside, and create a winning environment, a winning culture.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people win a lot, I think those people uh, learn how to develop systems of winning. I don't think I think they find out through trial and error. You know, obviously they'll lose some, but they keep on a winning track. And I think those winners find a system that will allow them to continue to win, and they stay very close to those systems. And I used to, when I got later on in life, when I started coaching at Ohio State under Woody Hayes, you know, he used to talk about if you see a person who is winning in one thing, you need to stay close to them, because they normally are going to win in whatever they decide to do. It won't be long before they'll figure it out.
Oh, sure.
Normally those people who learn to win, they can win in a lot of different things. And I trusted what he's saying was true, and I found that as I've gone down through life to be true.
Sure, sure. Yes, you know, I was going to ask you about that, because sometimes you mentioned the issue of trial and error. And on the way here this morning to the studio, I noticed that I hit just about every green light, you know, and then I did hit one red light, and I had to think about, you know, how am I going to view this? You know, I was going so swell, you know, things were moving along so nicely. And it reminded me of sometimes patients would come in the office, and I would say, okay, so Mr. Jones, how are you doing? And Mr. Jones might sit down and say, well, doc, it seems like I make one step forward and then I have 2 steps backwards. And it would always attract my attention when they said that, because I didn't know if that was really happening in their life, or it was a function of how they saw it. Did they see themselves as losing? Did they see themselves as failing in some way? And so I always wondered about that. I wonder what has been your teaching for how do we look at it when things just don't go the way we had planned?
I think those systems work in reverse. And I think sometimes people don't realize when they say things that they're developing a system. And if they take that philosophy and everything else they do, then they will lose. I mean, because they're speaking it into existence. Mm-hmm. I think many times, you know, of course, I'm a firm believer in, you know, to be successful, you're going to have to put some energy and some work in there someplace. But you also can lose, you know. Mm-hmm. So if you have the wrong attitude about life, you're going to end up losing, because you'll find ways to systematize losing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's with your mouth. You know, you're saying things that will make it exist.
Sure. Yes, as a matter of fact, just hearing you say that, I'm thinking of a lot of responses that I've heard people say just automatically. If you just say hello to them, you know, how you doing? They might say, you know, I'm just a squirrel, or something like that, you know. Yeah. All sorts of automatic responses. And we end up finding ourselves in situations, and we're not even sure that we talked ourselves into them. Okay, so I think what we'll do is, I have several more questions, and I appreciate these answers. I think we'll pause for a break and then follow up on some of that. And then I'm going to ask you some more about how you perform your own practices and some of the big questions in that regard. We'll see you back after a few moments of breaking.
Why buy local? When you shop with local businesses, you're spending your money on more than just the item you're buying. You're adding a building block to your neighborhood. It starts with a single purchase, maybe a cup of coffee, groceries from a local co-op, or even a shiny new bicycle from one of the nearly 28 million small businesses nationwide. Your money doesn't stay in the till for long though. Local business owners use the money to create a lot of economic activity in your neighborhood, like buying from suppliers, many of whom are also local businesses, paying taxes to the city, which builds and maintains the infrastructure we all rely on, employing local workers, contributing to 65% of the net new jobs each year. Add this all together and you've got a recipe for a happier, healthier, more connected neighborhood. Now that's an investment worth making.
Owens. I am your personal networking concierge, and I host a show on RVN TV called Connect to Success, where I interview power networkers in the greater Philadelphia and South Jersey area. So join me every week, 12:30 on Thursdays during your lunch break, and now on Fridays at 9 and 9:30 p.m. We'll see you next week.
This plus this equals this plus this and this. Don't drink and drive.
What makes a temple owl? Meet Stella. She's wise, fierce, and she's not alone. Temple University, where owls call home. We are the cherry and white. The city is our classroom, and we lead the rush hour, making our mark on every field around the world. A world without Temple, well, that's like the sky without the North Star. Temple, never stopping.
The family law firm of Shemtab Dragonovsky Taylor will help you move through and beyond your divorce. We are a full-service boutique family law firm located in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania. We handle cases in Montgomery County, Chester, Bucks, Delaware, and Philadelphia counties. We have 6 highly experienced lawyers and have represented clients for more than 30 years regarding these issues. Our clients depend on us to sort through the complicated issues involved in divorce and division of assets, spousal and child support, and custody. We listen to them, we gather the information, and we help them make informed decisions. We pride ourselves in our knowledge and our experience. We try to settle cases when we can, but we zealously advocate for our clients at trial.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sean, and welcome back to the Winner's Circle. As you're aware, we're talking with Coach Rudy Hubbard, who's my dad, and who's been teaching us a lot about winning. I think it's very important, and I have wanted to understand a lot of it myself as I've been talking to patients down through the years. Dad, Coach Hubbard, one of the questions that comes up is I hear patients say, you know, I know what to do, and I've heard this over and over. I could teach other people to do it, but I find difficulty finding the motivation to actually do everything that I know how to do. So what's the answer to this? How does a person get motivated and stay motivated about achieving their goals and the victory that they want?
You know, I think it's a great question. It's obviously not easy to do.
Sure.
I think that the biggest part is wanting to compete, wanting to be able to compete with yourself, with other people. You know, one of the things I like to tell a story about when I was really, really young, growing up in Hubbard, Ohio, we had a little ballpark down the street from our house.
Mm-hmm.
And all the kids would congregate down there at different levels and different ages and play sports and that kind of thing. But one day, I don't know what happened. There was several of the little kids that didn't like something about me or something. Anyway, they ended up chasing me home. They wanted to fight me. And so I can remember vividly, we had a screen door. And I was running so fast that when I hit that screen door, trying to run from those kids, it made a loud sound.
Wow.
And my father heard that, and he came out and asked me, are you running from those kids? And of course, I couldn't deny it because I was out of breath, and he had heard the way that screen door shut. But anyway, he made a point, and he asked me if they had a knife or a gun. And I said, no, I didn't see one. He said, well, don't you ever run home again.
Wow.
Because if you do, you'll be running all your life.
Wow.
And he made such a big point because he never chastised me. My mom used to always do that. I think he used to let her do that. And he had told me that if I ever start chastising you, I might have to kill you. I don't know. I don't think he meant that, but he said that.
Right.
And anyway, after that, he went and bought a set of boxing gloves.
Okay.
And he would have us as little kids out there in the garage. We'd be boxing. And I think he really, really wanted me to know how to defend myself.
Sure.
And he made a point that, you know, he didn't want to have to attack me.
Yeah.
But I think that had a really serious impact on my life. It taught me to compete. He made a point that if I would compete, they would learn to leave me alone.
Right.
You know, if I just didn't run from the issues and run from the fight, but if I started running, I might be running for my whole life.
Wow.
And I reflect on that many, many times in my life when I had to go and compete on a high school level or junior high school level.
Sure.
And then when I had to go compete on the college level, and I would compare myself to some of the other gentlemen out there coming from all different parts of the country.
Right.
You know, I felt like I had an edge all the time.
Sure.
Because, you know, I always felt like the fight wouldn't ever end until I won.
Right. Right.
I was just going to make sure it kept going, and I would figure out a way to win.
Sure.
And I think that's the way I am right now. I think even till this day, those traits stick with me from what my father at the time was a guy who just worked a lot. He didn't really have a whole lot to say, but when he said that, it struck me because he was so quiet about most of the rest of my life upbringing.
Wow.
And normally when he would say something, it's something he's thought about heavily. It bothered him heavily. And so it made a serious impact on my life, and I'm so glad it happened.
Oh, sure, sure. Okay, so those kids, that would be one of those early challenges, but later on, some of the challenges might be another team. Sounds like it might be a new field that you are participating in, other endeavors in life. And you just learned how to win, stand there and win your best game, compete, and perform on a higher level.
Oh, yeah, you know, and I got to say, as I went through the college ranks and everything, and I had an experience with Woody Hayes and some of the best coaches in the country.
Sure.
Were on the same staff I was on.
Yes.
I mean, they added to that. And so basically, you know, any challenge that I've had in life,
yes.
You know, I try to hit it head on. Try to decide what I can change.
Yes.
If I can't change it, then I don't try to change things that I can't. But if I can make it better,
right.
I definitely want to do everything I can do to make it better. And that's the way I approach it. You know, anything I've had, cancer, you know, I know I had a hip replacement. Basically, you know, I relied on the doctors. You know, that's their job to do it. You know, I had no control except to do what they asked me to do. But I had full faith that they knew what they were doing, and I just attacked it head on and gave it everything I had. And most of those things don't last long with me.
Right, right. Yeah, I've seen you overcome a lot of that and discover a way to win in the face of so many challenges. You know, I have to mention that several patients have followed up, and I get the sense that they think that maybe it's too late for them to win. Do you think that there's a time in our lives when it's just too late? We're too advanced in age, the circumstances are too dire. Have you seen it happen where people have just not been able to win because they've run out of opportunities?
I don't think it's ever too late to win.
Okay.
You know, I think, you know, I've always had the feeling that most people want to win. You know, so I see people in sporting events, you know, they identify with certain teams and they identify with certain athletes.
Yes.
And people like to put that index finger up in the air and hold that one. Everybody wants to win.
Yes.
But it's so easy just to put the finger up in the air and don't do any work.
Right.
And so everybody wants to claim victory and not do anything to get the victory.
Right.
So I found that, and I used to preach that with my players, is that, you know, that's why we practice. You know, we want to win. We don't want to just be in the ball game. Right. You know, we want to win the ball game. So if we're going to compete, we want to be able to win. Sure. And so that sometimes you got to be able to do what other people want. Right. To have what other people don't. And I just think that those guys who win, they found the formula.
I hear you.
And I think that's the same thing in life. Same thing you're going to find with your patients. You know, at some point, they got to be willing to compete, and they got to be wanting to win. And they need to be able to go to whatever level they have to go to win.
Yeah, there's a price to pay. Yeah, you know, I was hearing you talk about a lot of these ideas, and of course, I've been lucky enough to have them told to me throughout life. And I wonder if you could tell the viewers of the Winner Circle some of what you personally do these days? You've had these some health challenges that you become aware of. I think that you overcame diabetes diagnosis, and you had that orthopedic injury. Did you have a hip fracture? I mean, a repair?
Yeah, well, yeah, I had to have a hip replacement, and you know what I found is that I had gotten to a point in life where it was okay to get old,
Okay.
and I had started gaining weight, and somewhere during that process, I made it okay. And I would go get a checkup, and I would be pre-diabetic, but I never would hit that threshold where the doctor would say, okay, we're going to put you on medication. I don't like taking medication. And so, unfortunately, I kept messing around with it until one day my doctor told me, okay, now you're diabetic. Now we're going to have to put you on some medication. And I asked them to just give me, now that was the turning point.
Sure.
Now that's where I decided now it's time for me to get in the ball game for real.
Okay.
And I asked him to give me, I normally get a checkup every 6 months.
Yes.
And I asked him to give me until the next checkup. Well, at that point, I decided to get involved with intermittent fasting.
Okay.
And I started doing that to lose weight and to get back in shape. And so I lost right around 50 pounds. I kept up with it the whole time. And so when I went back to that next checkup, I was not diabetic at all. I was still pre-diabetic, but
Sure.
everything. And my doctor was really, really pleased with where I was, and I just maintained that. I started feeling so good because of that.
Yes.
It just made no sense for me not to go ahead on and win.
Right.
As better than that. And so I then adopted sprinting,
Okay.
and which was odd at 74 years old
Right.
to be sprinting, but it's in-house sprinting.
Okay.
And I follow this gentleman on the internet, on YouTube, named Mark McIllier.
Okay.
He's 57 years old, and he talks about not sprinting outside. He makes sure he's clear. He doesn't want anybody pulling any muscles.
Right.
So he's not wanting you to do anything that's going to be detrimental to your health.
Sure.
But he shows you at the same time. He doesn't just talk about it.
Right.
And so when I saw that, I felt like it was something I could do.
Wow.
All through my years, I played racquetball and stayed up with younger guys.
Right.
But so when I saw that, I started doing the intermittent fasting and the sprinting program, and I still do those two today.
Wow.
And I tell you, it's keeping me in pretty good shape, and most people will recognize it when they see me that I'm doing something.
I'll bet. I think we have some footage of you sprinting. I wonder if we can show that to our viewers. And I know you were talking about it.
Okay.
There he is. Excellent. Yeah, so, for our viewers, I heard my dad talking about this intermittent fasting that he was doing, and I heard him talking about his sprinting. But once I was visiting last year and happened to walk up on him sprinting, and even though he had mentioned that he was sprinting for several months, when I saw him doing it, I was thinking, wow, what is he doing? Even though he had told me that he had been doing it, and that's how he was creating such wonderful outcomes. So, you were putting in the work, and it's paying off. And, I can imagine from your doctor's standpoint, when he sees you, it's really rare, unfortunately, that we make recommendations and people follow them, and then they come back and showing so much success. We don't see it every day. And sometimes people in my position, physicians, we even become kind of a little bit cynical, and we don't even make the recommendations with the same spirit that we would if we thought that they would fall on ears that can hear. So that's amazing what you're doing there.
Well, I got to tell you this story. I have one of my former ball players, football players here at Florida A&M when I first got here, he is now the CEO of our local urban league.
Okay.
And he was, as he became the CEO, he wanted me to be there when they inducted him and made it formal as the CEO of the urban league. So I went to the program, and when I walked in, my jacket didn't fit like it normally would because I had lost so much weight. And so it jumps out. I didn't want to, and I still not bought a whole lot of clothes because I don't know where it's going to end yet. I feel so good with it. But anyway, they wanted to know what I was doing.
Sure.
And it was most of the people with the urban league are older people. And when I was so glad to tell them because, you know, I knew it would make them feel better probably, like it's made me feel better.
Right.
And man, they just could not see that. They could not see me or even visualize themselves doing what I was doing.
Right.
Sprinting, I mean, that word, I could tell they just didn't allow themselves to even kind of understand what I was talking about. As a matter of fact, one of the guys said, most of these guys have problems lifting their legs up.
Yes.
So, let alone sprinting.
Right.
So I knew I'm talking to the wrong crowd.
Right.
So I just left, but I thought, man, what a negative attitude they got.
Sure.
And that's what I find with most people. But you know, that's all I can do. All I could do is bring it to them. But I know how it makes me feel.
Sure. So you know you've done that physically with your sprinting, and that's a pretty definite approach, and it's working obviously. And I know that you've done the same approach, the same intensity of approach, and with the same seriousness with your nutrition. And so all of it's been playing off well. So you've gotten a chance to enjoy all of this victory, even after hip surgery and after a diagnosis of diabetes. I mean, do you still have diabetes anymore even?
No, my last visit was about 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, and my A1C was 5.9.
Perfect. Wonderful.
And so my doctor felt really good about it. You know, you made a point because he had been doing the intermittent fasting as well. But this last time when I went a few weeks ago, he was saying that he wasn't doing as good as I was doing. Okay. And so he had kind of fallen off a little bit.
Wow.
But he was saying that I inspired him. So the next time I came back for my next visit, he was going to be back on track itself.
Excellent.
But with me, you know, I've always felt in life, man, you only get one time around. You know,
Sure.
This is not a practice run.
Sure.
And so, you know, I want to live this thing in a good way, and I want to have a good time doing it.
Excellent. And I think we have an image of some of your pearls of winning and wisdom here. Looks like you're working on a title. You can win too. And I can definitely appreciate that because that's what I've been trying to teach people and also exemplify, hopefully, and but really help people to find it within themselves, really convince them that they can win too. So I really appreciate having you on the show today and everything that you've shared, and look forward to following you more and seeing more and hearing more about what you're doing. And then I'd love to have you back on the show in the future, and we can talk more about that if you're willing.
Man, I'm loving this. I'm always glad to participate, and especially with the son. And let me say to the audience how much I appreciate you and seeing all the success that you've had. And I'm just so glad to see it that I can't say it enough of how proud that you've made me feel.
Excellent. So, happy to honor you in that way. So thanks for coming on the show. And to all of you in the winner's circle, thanks for joining. I hope that what you're hearing here is you can win too. It's a big part, I think, of creating success that we want in all the different areas that we have in health, in our family life, and in our work life. We can do it. You can win too. We'll look forward to seeing you right here next week. Until then, keep winning, guys. Take care.